This is Los Angeles, 1947. A city electric with promise. A place where a young woman could become a star overnight. Or she could just vanish. This story, it's about that other side of LA, the dark side. The one that's always lurking just behind the glamour.
So, picture this. It's January 15th, a cold morning in Leimert Park. A woman, Betty Berzinger, is out walking with her little girl, who's just 3 years old. The neighborhood? It's quiet, pretty much just an empty lot. But what she saw next, it would stop her heart cold. At first, she probably didn't even know what she was looking at. There was just this shape lying in the grass only a few feet from the sidewalk. It was white, posed. It almost looked broken. She thought it was a mannequin, you know, the kind you see in a store window just tossed out with the garbage. But then she got closer. And the truth, well, the truth was so much worse. Because this wasn't a mannequin at all. It was a woman, brutalized in a way that's hard to even imagine. And deliberately staged, like some grotesque piece of art, just left there for anyone to find. And the details of what was done to her, they just defy explanation. She was sliced clean in half at the waist with what seemed like surgical precision. Her face was carved from ear to ear into this horrifying smile. But here's the detail that chilled investigators to the bone. There wasn't a single drop of blood at the scene, not one. Which meant this act of pure savagery, it happened somewhere else. This was just the final act, the grand finale. So now the police have a body, but no crime scene. A victim, but no name. Jane Doe number 1. And the first question, the one that could maybe unlock this whole nightmare, was so simple and yet so crucial. Who was she? Well, her name was Elizabeth Short. She was just 22 years old. And like so many others, she'd come out to California with that same dream, right? To see her name up in lights. She was an aspiring actress, a waitress, kind of drifting. Just another Hollywood hopeful looking for her big break. But, you know, her life was never easy, far from it. Her father actually faked his own suicide during the Depression and just abandoned the family. Can you imagine? Then, years later, she moves to California to live with him after he reappears. It was a life of constant movement, always looking for a fresh start that, well, it just never seemed to come. But in death, she became something else. A sensation. The newspapers, always hungry for a story, they gave her a nickname. A name that would echo through the decades. The Black Dahlia. It was a nod to a popular film noir, The Blue Dahlia, and a rumor that she liked to wear black. And just like that, Elizabeth Short, the person, disappeared. And the Black Dahlia, the myth, was born. And while the papers were selling this dark, glamorous fantasy, a real family was absolutely shattered. Her mother, reporters actually tricked her. They called and said her daughter had won a beauty contest just to get details and quotes about her life before they told her that her daughter was dead. Their private grief became a public spectacle. So the LAPD is under just immense pressure. I mean, the whole country is watching this case. But here's the thing. They weren't just hunting a killer. They were hunting a phantom, a ghost who left a body but took the entire crime scene with him. This case, it became a national obsession. And with that kind of obsession comes chaos. Get this, more than 500 people came forward and confessed to the murder. 500. Of course, most of them were quickly dismissed, but each one was a dead end. Each one wasted precious, precious time. And then, about 9 days after the murder, the killer reached out. Not to the cops, no. He sent a package to the Los Angeles Examiner newspaper, a direct taunt from the phantom they couldn't find. And inside this package, Elizabeth Short's life, basically. Her social security card, her birth certificate, photos, an address book. It was proof that this was the guy. And it was also proof that he was smart, incredibly careful. Every single item had been wiped clean with gasoline. completely erasing any fingerprints. He was in control, and he was making sure they knew it. He didn't stop there. More letters started showing up. 13 of them in total. Usually made from letters cut and pasted from newspapers, classic movie villain stuff, taunting the police, daring them to catch him, and in these letters, he gave himself a name, the Black Dahlia Avenger. So you see the problem, right? The police had hundreds of potential suspects, but not a single shred of usable evidence. No fingerprints, no murder weapon, not even a crime scene to process. It was an investigator's absolute worst nightmare.
Okay, so one of the first people they really looked at was a guy named Robert Red Manley. He was a salesman, and he was the last person known to have seen Elizabeth alive. Dropped her off at a hotel. Naturally, he was their prime suspect for a while. They investigated him, polygraphed him, but in the end, he was cleared.
But then, another name surfaced. A much darker, more intriguing suspect. Dr. George Hodel. Now, this guy was a prominent physician. He moved in the highest circles of LA society. He was brilliant, charismatic, and he also just happened to have the surgical skills needed to do exactly what was done to Elizabeth's body. The police had a doctor with a scalpel and a very secret life. And then, years later, the case takes this really dark, almost unbelievable turn. The strongest accusation against Hodel didn't come from some old police file. It came from inside his own family. His son, Steve Hodel, who was a former LAPD homicide detective himself, became convinced, absolutely convinced, that his own father was the monster they'd been looking for.
But back then, the investigation just grew cold. The Phantom was never caught. The case went unsolved. The story, though, the story of the Black Dahlia never died. It became a permanent part of the city's dark mythology, a Hollywood ghost story.
So why? Why did it go unsolved? Well, it was kind of the perfect storm, really. You had a sensationalist press that cared more about selling papers and finding the truth. You had an LAPD that was, let's just say, known for being corrupt. And of course, this was way before modern forensic technology. No DNA, no databases, none of the tools that could have cracked this case wide open.
And because it was never solved, the murder became more than just a crime. It became a warning, a really gruesome cautionary tale for every person who ever came to Los Angeles with stars in their eyes. It completely shattered that shining image of Hollywood and revealed the darkness that could be lurking right underneath.
And so here we are. Decades have passed. All the major suspects are dead. The files are just gathering dust. To this day, the murder of Elizabeth Short remains officially and frustratingly unsolved. The killer was never found. He took his secret to the grave.
It really is the ultimate cold case. It's a ghost story that still haunts Los Angeles. A beautiful face, a horrific end, carved forever into the city's memory. And it leaves us with that one final, chilling question that maybe will never be answered. Who killed the Black Dahlia?